Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I wanted to give you some news this morning. How many people heard about the kidnapping at the elementary school? I want you to tell you that.
Click.
I want to tell you that it ended up being okay because he woke up.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Say that again.
I
I'm
wanted
still
to tell you about the
sleeping.
kidnapping at
Okay.
the school this morning, or the last week. It's ended up
Whatever it
okay
was.
because he woke up.
Oh,
The kid
Napping.
napping. Okay.
got
Yeah.
it.
This is good though. This is good. 'Cause this, I don't know if you recognize, but a lot of the times I do tie in the joke with the lesson. And so it ties in with the lesson. This will be good. This will be good. And today's lesson,
It's
believe
okay,
it or
I'm
not,
still
we're trying
half
to figure out.
asleep, so.
Did you figure it out? Oh, we're still trying to figure it out.
No, I'm half asleep, so it takes me a little bit.
That's okay.
That's your excuse, huh, Dee Dee?
It's a good one. It's a good one. It's all right.
It's valid.
That's never
It
It's
works,
good.
it works.
It's
doesn't it?
I
valid.
tell you, we gotta get a symbol going here.
Okay, well, today's lesson is New Miracle Sunday, and you're going to probably wondering how the joke plays into that, but I'll tell you here in a little bit, okay? But first of all, when we talk about a miracle, I want to get some clarity on what you think a miracle is. So what is a miracle in your eyes? Well, we're all so
You,
far.
yeah.
You're a miracle.
Thank you.
A miracle is everything in life.
And answer prayer that you've spoken about.
Answer prayer, everything in life.
There's no such thing as a miracle.
There's no such thing as a miracle. Oh, look at you. Okay. What were you going to say? Anything?
It's a miracle is when things happen that you wouldn't expect that could actually happen.
Things that happen when you wouldn't expect would actually happen. Well, she's pretty close on miracle as far as the definition of Webster. And Webster says a miracle is an event or effect in the physical world beyond or out of the ordinary course of things, deviating from the known laws of nature or transcending our knowledge of these laws.
That's what.
But as far as Charles Fillmore, he defines it as this. In reality, miracles are events that take place as a result of the operation of a higher unknown law. All true action is governed by law. Nothing just happens. All happenings are the result of cause and can be explained under the law of cause and effect. And so, you see kind of two different definitions of miracles. One, when we're thinking about, I guess, in our human understanding of miracles, what that is, by what Webster said. And then another definition of miracles by how we look at it, how we define it from a little bit of a different viewpoint than just looking at the humanity side of it. But miracles are happen, and they don't happen in a vacuum. They happen actually all the time. But who has some cash with them right now? Who has a $20 bill and a $1 bill on them? Somebody come up who has a $20 and a $1 bill. Are you going to come up?
Are you gonna magically, mysteriously make it disappear?
Oh, it's going to be a miracle. $20. Come on up, too. She's giving me the 20. You got a 1? You got a 1? Yeah. Okay. Come on up, Jim. Thank you. Okay. Now, you gave me the 20, right? Okay. Okay.
It's already.
Now, Kat gave me a $20 bill. And so, how much is this worth?
$20.
$20. And Jim gave me a $1 bill. How much is this worth?
One.
Or
Okay.
1/20.
The 1/20th of that. Okay, yeah, that's true. Now, so, did you know, I wonder if the one has it, because I never did even test this before I was going to do it. I should have tested it, probably. I can't tell. Yeah, I see it. Okay. Did you know, though, that the same paper that was used for this is used for this? It's different. It's specially inked. And this is kind of going back to my printing days when I had because we had to, believe it or not, as owners of print shops and even people working there, you're not supposed to according to the Treasury Department, which is the Secret Service, you're not supposed to kid around about money. Because, you know, before I even left the printing business, we had copiers who could copy these things and be pretty darn accurate. But you couldn't get the paper. It's illegal to buy the paper that this is made on, believe it or not. So if you're found with that paper, you're going to be in trouble if they can't catch you. But anyway, so why do we say this is worth $20 and this is worth $1? If it's the same material and it's the same ink and everything, and they got a watermark, they got a specially tab in that paper, believe it or not, that you can't get out. If you've ever actually ripped one of these, you can see that tab. It's a metallic tab in there. It goes all across the bill. It's specially made paper. So what is this one worth and what is this one worth?
This is still worth 20, that's still worth $1.
And why is that?
It says 20 on there.
Because it says 20?
Yeah.
And somebody said it was worth 20.
And I've used this example on just a single bill before. Somebody said it was worth 20. So if somebody said it was worth 20, you believed it, I guess, right?
Everybody
So you accepted it, and everybody around here accepts it. But what if we went somewhere into a country where this wasn't worth $20 bills? $20.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that happens.
What would it be worth?
Whatever they say
Whatever
it's
they
worth.
say.
Whatever they say it's worth. What if they say it's just a piece of paper?
I put it back in my pocket and they lose the sale.
Yes, she puts it back in her pocket, but it is a sale. Well, if it's not worth anything somewhere, though, it's not going to be valuable to them, so they're not going to be worth it. And it really isn't valuable to you because you're not going to be able to use it for whatever we're planning on using it for, right? So if this is made out of the same material as this, then what is the difference between me giving you this and him this?
$19.
$19. Because why?
Because it's what we.
Because
we put the
We
value.
agree that it's worth that, right?
Mhm.
And so when thank you both. Give them a round of applause. Thank you both. If there's only going to be one of them, I was going to do the switcheroo on you, but you both came up, so that's good. Anyway, so we look at money in our understanding of our United States Western culture as valued at a certain amount, and we all agree on that, right?
Right.
And so when we look at somebody else and we say that they are, when we, in our mind, form an opinion of them, whether it be valued more or less than us, what are we doing?
Putting a value on it.
Putting a value on them, but yes, and we're doing that from our own understanding, from our own experience, right? Just like we are using the money as the 20 and the 1 as from our own experiences. This is worth $20 and this is worth $1. But it really isn't the truth of the matter, is it? Because they're both made of what? The same thing, right? And so when we're looking at other people and we value them at less than or more than us, then we're doing our own self a disservice because we're not telling the truth, is it? And when we see somebody rise from however you value lower than to something above whatever, you're usually placing it on your own self, what you're valuing yourself at, is we kind of, not necessarily, we could look up to them, but we kind of value them at more because we've seen what they've done in life, right? And we appreciate that. But we can also do that if we don't let ourselves get caught up in the valuation of each other. Because miracles are no different than the dollar bill. Miracles are what we place a value on and we change it. Sandy has heard me say that many times before, but that miracles don't happen. And from a totally spiritual level, that's accurate. Because of the fact that we can all achieve anything if we allow it in our own mind. First of all, we have to start there, in our own mind, to be able to happen, right? It's not going to happen if we think it's not going to happen, right? How many years was it in human history before we were able to build an airplane and fly? Because we look at the birds and say they're different than us, and so they're made to fly, and we cannot fly because we weren't made to fly, right? And so it's different. It depends on what we place value on as far as what a miracle is and how it can happen. Because if someone came to the United States from a foreign country and wasn't used to something simple like we have, well, I'll use the flying example again because I've used this example many times, but I'll use the example of a movie that I really liked. It was, now I'm forgetting the name of it, with Robert De Niro, he had Parkinson's to awakening.
Awakening,
The
the
Awakening,
awakening,
yeah.
yeah.
Is he had Parkinson's that put him into a coma since a childhood before they could fly, and then before we knew how to fly, and then when he came out of the coma decades later, there were commercial airplanes and everything. He just went to the airport and was amazed and looked at the airplanes and just stood there and watched and could not believe his eyes. And it's kind of like us when we look at things that change the way we perceive things in our life. We consider that a miracle, but when we think about it, it's just something that hasn't been developed yet. And so we can look at ourselves and say the same thing. That dollar bill is worth something because we place value on it. We can, it's like churches, really. I mean, what value do they have in people's lives? Nationally, churches are not being, they're starting to come back, but they've been on the decline for a long, long time. What is the reason? Because people aren't placing value on it, right?
That's right.
And so they think they can go to the internet and the same thing can happen. Although that's not accurate, it's what they think. And so that's how they're going to live their life. It's what we think. And how are we going to do that? Well, there are many examples of that we can look at that prove that every day in your life you experience a miracle. But we don't look at it that way. I was looking at, I don't know why, but I was just taking a shower the other day, and I was thinking, it was during one of these crisp mornings, and I was thinking, man, I'm glad I got hot water. Believe it or not, I remember taking cold showers on a cold day. First of all, the water's colder than it usually is because it's been in the ground, and the weather outside's cold, and it just makes everything cold.
Right.
And so, it's something that there's a lot of things that happen in our life that are day-to-day things that we look at, and we overlook the fact that we become complacent and not grateful for those things, is what my point is. And so when we do that, we kind of get into an idea of, well, I'm at this level and I expect all these things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't expect those things, but taking them for granted is something different, okay? And so sometimes we get into this entitlement idea where we think that we're entitled to everything. Well, you can find out if you don't, in our society, if you run out of all those $20 bills, that you're not entitled to nothing.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, the other people that think they're entitled, that you're supposed to pay them, will stop that from happening, right?
That's true.
So when we think about that and we look at that, there are a lot of miracles that we overlook, that we don't take, that we take for granted, that we should be grateful for. And this thing here, this is from the Beatitudes, or rather the Sermon on the Mount, which is the Beatitudes, but Matthew 5:5, and this is a quote that I want to bring up today because everybody's heard it. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, the world, whatever transfer or whatever way that you're used to hearing that beatitude, but it's pretty misunderstood, and it goes along with what I'm saying today. So, when you first heard it, when I first heard it, I'm going to say it for myself, but when you first heard it, you probably thought it was the same thing, unless you were brought up in a really strict church. But when you first heard it, you heard it like me probably. Well, so are you supposed to be just, woe is me, and, meek, speaking of the word meek, and be a doormat? That's not what that meant at all, first of all. And nobody, usually after they grow up a little bit in their spiritual understanding of different biblical quotes, understand it that way. But the general understanding is not correct either, really. Because the general understanding in Christendom is it represents God's grace. And that's not true either. What is true is exactly what I've been talking about so far, is that we cannot be a doormat. First of all, we're not supposed to be a doormat because we were born with the divinity by divine creation. And that means if you consider yourself less than a doormat to anything or anybody, then what you're doing is that's really blasphemy. I mean, people don't understand that either, but it's true. If God created you to be something, and to be good at something, and you say that you're not, you're saying what? You're saying God is wrong. It's kind of like, it's like a lot of things that people put on other people that don't live like them. They say, well, that person's bad because they do that, and the Bible says that. Well, that's not what the Bible says, and you're interpreting it how you want to interpret it. And you know, people could say the same thing about me, but they can say the same thing about Jesus too, because just because you're inclusive of things doesn't mean you agree with how other people live.
That's right.
That doesn't mean that. But what it means is that they were sent here to do a certain thing. I recognize the divinity in them, and it may be totally different than what I was here sent here for. Which is a good thing, because what they're doing isn't what I want them to do. But instead of looking at it like that, you know, we think, well, they're wrong and I'm right. Right? So, and it's kind of hard sometimes. I understand that when someone is, when we feel threatened by someone, or when they act like, well, in fact, they may believe totally that we're wrong, you know, it just doesn't feel too good. But we have to look at it and say, you know what? The divinity in them is going to take care of that. And it's not like God's going to punish them, you know, because a lot of people think that. I'm going to let God do my justice, right? God's doing justice by allowing everybody to do their divine idea on earth here now. And this is another Bible quote from Nehemiah, and it kind of explains what I'm talking about a little bit. They refused, and this is what happens. They refused and failed to remember the miracles you performed among them. They're talking about God at this time. They became stiff-necked and, in their rebellion, appointed a leader in order to return to their slavery. And that's what we do sometimes. Before I get to that, we sit there and we, you know how, what is that saying? It's about being comfortable with what you know, except it's not what you know is not necessarily a good thing. It's like the abused spouse, whichever way it goes, you know. My brother, I'm going to tell you this, and I shouldn't probably be mad if I told him, but my brother was married the first time, and she was abusive to him. And I know that you don't hear that very often. Mark's a strong guy. I mean, he could take her no problem, if you want to put it that way, okay? But he would put up with that stuff, and one day we lived each other, this is a long time ago, next to each other in a apartment complex, and she was wailing on him, physically wailing on him in the hallway. And I told Mark, I said, I'd never say that, I never knew I'd say this, but I said, you've got to get out of that. I wouldn't put up with that for a second. And they'd say the same thing if a female was being beat up by her husband, of course. But you know, we don't, when we look at those things and we see, you know, and of course he was in love, and, you know, love conquers all and all that. Well, it does if it wants to be, if it's a two-way street. But if it's not, you know, it doesn't. Okay? And so, you know, when we think about those type of things, that we have to look at our life and say, you know what? This is we both are agreeing to see the divinity in each other. If we're not agreeing to see the divinity in each other, no matter how much you see the divinity in someone else, they're not going to stop throwing punches. If they don't see the divinity in you, okay? Because they put you at less than. And I'm not saying that we need to whip them and teach them a lesson, but I'm saying that you have to be able to recognize those things as an area where you can step back and get away from, so you can see the miracles in your life instead of being beat down by somebody else. Because, you know, I do remember this thing. You never the saying, misery loves company?
Yeah.
I found it to be true. I mean, people that are miserable want to bring everybody down.
Yeah.
They seem like they want to bring everybody down where they're at.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I told you even stories about people, and I'm not going to bring one up, I'm just going to bring up the generalization, about people who have been around a group, and, you know, they've all been chummy and everything, has been great and everything, but one of them gets, whatever you want to call it, gets the break and goes higher and higher to heights. But a lot in their group don't like you anymore because, he got lucky, whatever. It's just because, you know, what? You should be celebrating that person. I knew him when he was just a little kid or whatever. So we have to recognize the miracles that happen and celebrate them, even though they may not be a miracle to ourselves. Otherwise, we go back to this appointing a slave master to ourselves. Because we can be enslaved in our own life without being physically enslaved on the outer. But we can, which is worse, being enslaved on the inner. You know, the oppressive governments in the world get away with it because after generation, sit there and say, well, this is the way it is. I'm less than that. The caste system in England got that forever. In fact, it's still a little bit of a caste system in England, where if you were born to a carpenter, the best you're ever going to be is a carpenter. That's just stupid. I mean, sorry about that. I'm sorry?
Is that in India too?
Yes.
It might be. Might be, okay. Yeah. So we have to recognize the truth of everything that's going on. So let's go on. This Nehemiah goes on and says, but you are a forgiving God, gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abandoned in love. Therefore you did not desert them.
Abounding.
Abounding in love. Okay, thank you. What did I say?
Abandoned. That's
Oh,
the
man.
whole word thing.
Uh-oh, so maybe some subconscious stuff going on here. Anyway, what it's saying is that you can change this at any time. God is with you. You have the divinity within you, and you can change that at any time. Now, I'm not saying if you're in a bad relationship, you just leave it immediately, but I'm saying that you need to claim your divinity and say, you know, hey, if we can't get this worked out, something's going to change. Okay? Because something has to change. You know, it doesn't need to be in a negative light for you. Expecting a miracle is more than a statement, it's a way of life. Now, expecting a miracle used to be something that we used to do a lot in Unity, as far as, I think it was in the 80s that it started. I'm pretty sure that's when it started. But we printed out some labels and everything, expect a miracle, because of the fact that our human brain sometimes still looks at things and calls them miracles, which is great, because we want to get excited about new things that happen. I mean, look at, I bet even some of us in here, I hope not, but some of us in here, I'm sure, when they saw Maria, you know, if you hadn't seen her for a while, you thought, oh my, she's in bad shape. But see, we have to, if we do that, maybe because our human brain is saying we haven't seen her in a long time and she looks frail and everything, but we have to switch that thought immediately, because that's not the truth of the situation anyway. Reverend Francie gave a report today, and it's a great report, because, especially in Maria's case, she is so open to God's divine actions, to this miracle, if you will, happening, that it is taking place. And so we, as an outer person, cannot put on her something negative that's not hers anyway.
Right.
If we don't believe a miracle will happen, it won't happen. Okay? So if we accept it and we allow it to happen. Today there are going to be miracles happening for you. How many will you receive?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, if we see them, and if we see it, if we're ready for them. If you're ready for a miracle, raise your hand. You know, I saw Steve Martin the other day. He was on the Tonight Show. This is a long time ago, of course. And he was asking the audience a lot of questions, raising their hands and stuff. And then he said, well, how many people don't like to raise their hand? So anyway, miracles are always happening, though, but we have to be available to accept them. And the question today is, are you ready for your miracles?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
I hope so. I hope
Yes.
so. God is ready to give it to us at any
Yes.
time.
Bring them
So
on.
let's do it.